to Joy Agenda. I'm Hannah Campbell.
And I am Jay Lafferty. We are here in the Monkey Barrel studio with our special guest for this afternoon's podcast. And he is a photographer, filmmaker, all around talented guy. Please put your hands together for Rod Penn. Woo!
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. That was like my big up.
That was great.
It was impressive. It's like I feel like I could come out of with my wrestling tune with that one. I brought you guys presents because I know you had Dan on and he brought you chocolate. So I brought you fun Japanese snacks.
Oh my gosh.
So I brought mochi, not the ice cream.
Wow.
That's the actual. I think it's gluten free as well.
Oh my goodness! Then I'll feel healthy.
Listen, we're so healthy. Rod, this is my first gift on the pod. Thank you so much.
You are Hannah's official first guest.
I brought you one more thing.
Oh my gosh!
Okay, so I lived in Japan as a language teacher, and I pretty much lived on these. So these are hai chus. They're a juicy bad boy. Be careful.
A juicy bad boy. All the way from Japan.
You'll never look at an opal fruit in the same way after.
If we open these and start chewing, are we going to be able to interview you?
That'll be it. It'll be game over for the podcast.
We'll wait to the end.
We'll keep those to the end and then we'll have a good old chew through the last question.
And that'll be a lovely... And outro of us being like, thanks for listening.
These look amazing. And what flavour are these? Are pomegranate? Not pomegranate.
I think they're peach.
Peach.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
How long did you live in Japan for?
So I lived there for a year when I was 21. So it was quite an irresponsible time of my life.
Well, that sounds fun.
But that's why you're so involved in all the snacks. This is great.
Okay, I'm going to have to tear one of these open. We can't have gifts without... Right, what are we going for? Are we going for a tiramisu or the creamy matcha?
I think the tiramisu and cream.
I mean,
not that I don't adore matcha and the taste of grass, but...
is that what matcha tastes like?
Is it? It's quite sort of grassy.
Yeah, I think
earthy is the word, maybe.
I think you're right, yeah. It is a bit earthy.
Is it one of these things that makes you feel like, even though it's a sweetie, you can feel wholesome while chewing?
I think so. I just know that whenever they use matcha off on Bake Off, Paul Hollywood is not a fan. So he says it tastes like grass a little bit. But, if it's from Japan, these might be legit tasty ones. But tell you what, I'm going to open these.
Right, go for the rip-in. Yeah. This is where we get into the ASMR of the pod.
Have you had the matcha Kit Kat? No. Yeah, in Japan they do a matcha Kit Kat. It's very good, but it's very, very sweet.
Here we go.
I've got tiramisu one.
Ewan, would you like a matcha? Producer Ewan?
Yeah, this is tiramisu and cream. Lovely producer Ewan.
There we go. Oh, right. Okay, I'm going to describe this. It's in a little package. They're individually packaged. Oh, it feels like fluffy.
I did not
they're squidgy.
They're squidgy. Like this. They're very, very squidgy. Right, I'm going to take a bite in.
Okay, yeah, you go first.
So mochi is made from rice. It's a kind of Japanese rice.
Oh, okay.
And then the mochi ice cream is, I don't really know what that is, but it's mochi ice cream.
Yeah, because it's filling, so it's kind of like, it's chewy with a creamy filling. For people who have never seen it. Thank you so much.
I know, this is great first present. Thank you very much. Yes. These are actually, I'm not going to lie, Rod, I didn't think I was going to like these, but these are actually delicious. These are really good.
I don't even drink coffee, and these tiramisus are very, very nice. They're not too coffee. The creaminess is coming through. Yeah. Right, I'm going to...
Okay. And then we'll save these jawbreakers for later. That'll be exciting.
Are you a big fan of sweet treats?
I am, but that's why I have to avoid them. Yeah, I think biscuits are my weakness. I will buy a packet of biscuits and make my way through them.
What's your go-to biscuit?
Well, ginger nuts.
That was the most Scottish response from a non-Scot. Ginger nuts.
I am a ginger nut myself.
Yeah.
And
you said that in such a defeatist way. Ginger nuts.
It was inevitable.
But it's like, because you are, much like myself, right? Okay, a nice looking ginger.
Yes,
right.
Both
I'm
of
saying
you.
it.
Lovely looking gingers.
Yeah, we're lovely looking gingers.
You're a great pair of ginger nuts.
Get like a bad rep. And like us and Nicole Kidman.
Do you know there's a stereotype that gingers don't have souls?
Yeah.
I think that was South Park, wasn't it? That brought that into that. That's where it's from. So thank you, South Park.
I'm mostly here for solidarity for our people.
Yeah, I do feel a bit outnumbered at the moment, but I'm sure you...
But you lived in New Zealand for a very long time, Hannah. And I don't know if they have it in New Zealand, because in Australia, they have National Hug a Ginger Day. Did you know that?
No,
have you ever been to Australia?
I have, yeah.
Did people randomly hug you?
No, they didn't.
No, they never did.
No,
well,
Australia's not safe for gingers. We pretty much spontaneously combust.
And did you get called the lovely nickname that they have for gingers when you were out there?
Ginger balls.
So they call them rangers.
Oh yeah,
like you're a ranger, like a orangutan.
Like orangutan.
Yeah. Well, there's. I feel like there's not that many gingers in New Zealand because the sun is so strong that it just kills them instantly because it is so intense there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Japan, how long were you there for?
I was there for a year. So after I graduated, I didn't really have any prospects. So I did a degree in archaeology and cultural anthropology. So I really wanted to be a kind of Indiana Jones character.
Wow.
But I quickly found out that has very strong colonial kind of overtones, stealing artifacts from
we do
that are
love
precious
to do that.
indigenous people. So, but I really wanted to travel. So I didn't know how else to do it. I was broke. I was living in a bedsit. My girlfriend had left me. I was working in the basement of a clothes shop. So I was like, right, TEFL was my way. So I did a 1 month course, and before I kind of knew it, I was out in Asia in front of a class of pupils who spoke better English than me.
Wow. Oh no, and they were just like, I am winging this.
Yeah, that's completely, because we don't study the English language really in school. So I didn't actually really know what a noun and a verb and a pronoun and I didn't know how it all fit together. So I had to learn like on my feet, but it was really good. I'd love to say it was, all about the temples and stuff like that, but I was pretty much trapped in Tokyo for a year because I didn't have any money. So I had to, and Tokyo's quite seedy if you've been there. And the area I lived in was like pretty much on the border of the red light district. So I had quite a lot of kind of interesting experiences, some run-ins with Yakuza who control that area.
Oh my God. Is that not? Yeah. Is that where they have all like the robot maid cafes and stuff? Is that Tokyo?
I'm not probably.
I feel like
I'm not sure that.
I feel
the robots that staff like the hotel and
I feel like they have these cafes where it's like robots, but they're like maids and stuff, and it's all very high tech in Japan. Yeah, and it's a bit. Because it's that weird undertone sort of going on there as well. But oh my God, running with so that's the Japanese mafia then? The
yeah, I had a few, like not run-ins, but interactions.
You're not wanted, are you?
Interactions. Yeah. I like that. That sounded like a very mafia, like they weren't run-ins, they were interactions.
Yeah, you don't want to interact too closely. But I had a kind of really cool group of friends who were break dancers and street dancers.
Oh wow!
And it was they all worked in convenience stores and stuff. And I was actually training capoeira. That's where I started capoeira, and I was doing some break dancing. But hanging out with them was like hanging out with the cast of Fame. Like they would, we'd be in a restaurant or a bar. They'd start dancing, spontaneous dancing on the street, subway platform, break dancing, and they were brilliant.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like an episode of Glee.
I know, that's I adore that. I miss that from drama school, where we would just irritatingly stand up and start singing in the middle of a cafe. People would be like, what are you doing?
I mean, that's one way to diffuse the mob. Just start jazz handing it to them.
Just when you talk about the robots though, I felt slightly more at ease this week. I don't know if you saw, so Elon Musk had that thing where he brought all the robots out.
Yes.
When he was launching one of his evil plans. I've no idea which evil plan it was, but I'm sure it's evil.
There's too many at this point.
Yeah, it's Elon Musk. And did you see all the robots that walked out? Did you see this on the telly? So they had all these robots walking out, all of them looking like the way I shuffled out after I'd had my child. Do you know what I mean? Just like, it was a real shuffle. And it did make me feel slightly better about the impending doom of the robots taking over the world, because I was like, well, initially, if they look like this, we could just give them a push.
Yeah, you'd probably outrun them at this point.
They'll fall over because they did look steady.
There are other ones.
Oh no!
Yeah,
there are other ones.
Yeah, have you not seen the ones that backflip and
is that the Boston Dynamic ones? Yeah. There's these.
But
there
doesn't seem enough of those.
No, I don't. They've not got an army yet.
Yeah, because this was a little army of robots that looked like they looked like something from Doctor Who.
It'd be like zombies. Creepy. Like it doesn't matter if they're slow. If there are loads of them.
Oh, they'll get me anyway.
Get
so
you
basically, I was trying to bring a joyful aspect to the over the
Rod
world.
just be like, no,
I was like, we'll be able to outrun them, guys. So just
if they
tip
want
them
you,
over.
they'll just turn their laser eyes on, and we're going down. Because the Boston Dynamics one, they've got like robot dogs, and like it's like they run like dogs, and it's just But
That's
again, only a few of them, so I think we're safe for now.
I don't know if you've noticed, but just up the road from here at Edinburgh University, one of the buildings when you come out of TVET has a big robot in. It's like you can see them working with it and working on it. It's like a big robot arm thing, and then there's like a running robot. And I thought they were all going to look like that, and I was a little bit terrified because it's really big. It's about 8 foot tall, or maybe even 9 foot tall. I'm not great with distance and measurements. Right?
It was 100 feet tall.
It was 1,000,000 feet tall. You couldn't see it. It was in space actually. And yeah, I'm quite. I don't know if anybody else is scared of the whole AI robots.
Well, it's a bit concerning, but then I'm like, I feel like we're not going to be able to tackle them, so we have to maybe befriend the robots, bring them nice treats, and hopefully they'll be. But yeah, the AI and stuff is crazy now. It's scary how smart it is.
It is. Yesterday on Breaking the News, I was asked a question about AI and whether I agreed with it taking over some of the creative content development for ITV, which was in the news recently. And I was like, I think it's a bad idea. And then I had to look directly into camera and go, however, if you're watching 30 years from now, I'm totally with you, our robot overlords. Please spare me and my family.
I have a friend that works in AI and does a lot with like Chat GPT and stuff. And it's the way that it'll perform better if you like threaten it. And if you say like, do this, or like, I'll give you £1 million, or do this, or I'll kill your family, or if you say, pretend it's a Monday morning, it'll actually work better because the way it's learned from humans, they're more productive on like a Monday, and if they're threatened and stuff, so there's a way to like talk to it, which is, I find absolutely
terrifying.
Yeah.
As a photographer, Rod, what's your feelings about the whole? Because obviously that was kind of the first wave of the whole AI was very much photo based, and people having their photographs basically stolen and used as, I don't know, obviously like memory, I guess, is the way that they use it. They kind of store things they've seen and then utilize it.
Yeah, I think that it's been trained. Midjourney, I think it trains its AI on like the whole of the internet, and which there are definitely ethical questions. Adobe has tried to be better about it. So Adobe have trained their image creation kind of software on Adobe stock, so things they actually are allowed to, but unfortunately because of that it's a bit crap.
They've tried to be ethical and made a worse product because of
so it's going to take Adobe quite a while, but they're just coming on leaps and bounds, I think, and I'm not sure what to make of it, whether it is just going to take everyone's jobs or whether it's just another tool. But I think with photography there's always going to be, not always to be honest, but I think there'll always be real life to photograph that people want to kind of represent. But it's very, I think more graphic designers, kind of animators, games designers, like motion capture, this kind of stuff, people that work in that industry, I think it's going to threaten a lot of their jobs.
Yeah.
So it's going to it's shaking everything up as we speak.
Yeah.
And already, for example, online articles that need an image, they'll often, you can tell the image has been generated on Midjourney rather than getting an illustrator or photographer to do an image for that article.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is happening.
Is that because it's cheaper, or because they can get an image that they can just type in whatever they want that they need an image for?
Well, it's much cheaper.
And cheaper, yeah.
Because then you can get, I don't know, a couple sitting at a picnic table or something like that.
Whatever
and then
you need.
Got it. Though it doesn't do hands very well. I think everyone knows that. It can come up with just nightmarish, creepy, horrific imagery. Like me and my friends, we constantly sending each other like horrible AI things on Instagram. So it's still quite funny, but the rate is kind of changing and developing. It's getting very realistic.
I saw a really creepy one today, but then when you go into the comments, you realise how many stupid people live in this world. It was a Halloween-based thing, and it looked as if it was like a fashion week, but it was all babies, like not even toddlers. I would say they were total babies. Like maybe it's supposed to be between 12 and 18 months, walking the catwalk as like Batman and Robin, and you know, they're doing the whole thing. It looked like people walking the catwalk, but you could tell by looking at it, it wasn't real. Mm-hmm. Mainly because children that old do not walk in a straight line. When have you ever seen a baby walk in a straight line? And they were doing like the whole turn and they were holding hands. But so many people were like, oh my goodness, how did they get them to do that? And people were just going, it's AI generated, it's not real.
It's frightening what people all believe. And it's like, that's really not real life. That's not how it works. Oh, God.
But then there was things like the Pope in the bomber jacket, which I myself was like, Pope's looking pretty fly.
I never saw that one.
You never see the Pope in the big long white bomber jacket looking like Kanye West. Like it was, but more problematic. Just totally. Oh, it was, and then there's loads of like the Trump ones.
Oh God, yeah,
yeah. I mean, some of them are quite funny, but again. It's a slippery slope.
Sure, we'll see lots of fringe posters with using AI and things
like that.
There was
definitely AI fringe posters this year.
Yeah,
I noticed quite a few AI fringe posters this year.
Mm-hmm. He's trying to cut corners, budgets, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's quite...
Not your poster.
No, not my poster, because my poster was created by the lovely Rod.
And your poster was wonderful. It was a great poster.
It was. There was a little bit of trickery going on with it, though, because everybody in my poster, if any of the listeners or viewers haven't seen it, I am up a pole and doing a move called the Superman. So it's like I'm straight and like I've got my fist up in the air, and Rod made me look great. And everybody's like, oh, that's so cool. Can you really do that? And I'm like, yeah, for 10 seconds. But it takes
10 seconds is quite long.
Yeah, 10 seconds is quite long, but Dan was holding me. So it was just basically I got there, and then also Rod added more pole, so it looked like I was much higher up. I was a bit that far off the ground doing it. I could actually put my hand down. But there are fabulous pole dancers that can do that.
Yeah. Well, you still did it. It's just
I still did it. I can do it. I'm just not very good at getting into it, because you see pole dancers moving from like one move into Superman, and it's all the twisty, like twisting your arm around and going through your arm to go. Oh yeah, it's all very complex. But Rod took that lovely photo.
A wonderful poster. Yeah,
hey, he's taken all my pole photos. I say that as if I've got.
I know how many it was.
He's taken all 14.
I never set out to be a pole dance photographer. I keep getting dragged back into it, mostly by Dan. But yeah, but it's good fun.
Dan, who we keep referring to as Dan Scott, who's also been on the pod, who's a fabulous pole dancer, personal trainer, Maddie. It's great. But I think sometimes you don't choose the gangster life; it chooses you basically with the pole dance. What is it that like? What are your favourite things to photograph? Like if you had your choice.
Other than Jay, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Hot gingers unite.
When I first started photography is when I was kind of out in Asia. So I also lived in Indonesia for like 3 years.
Wow.
So actually rewind back to when I was about 20, I dated this really cool girl from Marseille. She was much cooler than me. She's into like cool bands and stuff and photography. She taught me how to like develop photos in the darkroom, and I really liked that. But then I just didn't do it until kind of digital photography kind of got going. So Indonesia, you can point your camera anywhere and get a great photo. It's such an amazing place. But when I got back to the UK, I didn't know what to photograph anymore. And actually, I was living in Norwich, which is not the most exciting city in the world. And then there was this club night called Banana Fana, and like everyone went. It was like a swing dance night, and everyone got dressed up, and it was like burlesque and swing bands, and it was that kind of, when that all got really popular, and it was brilliant. So I used to photograph that, and then they were like, "Oh, we like your photos." They started paying me. So then I started photographing other performances, and events. And then it's just since then I've pretty much photographed everything. I think like every kind of genre of photography, and you have to, especially in Edinburgh, because you can't. It's very difficult to survive just as like a fashion photographer. So I've done a lot of different stuff. But as far as the thing I most like to photograph, it's probably kind of performers, actually.
Yeah.
I quite like the kind of theatrics, dressing up, things like this. I think my photographs, they're all quite, I like to photograph people how they like to present themselves. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily trying to find the person behind the performance. I kind of embrace the performer and try and represent them as the performer, as their kind of persona. So I like that.
Yeah, so like the capturing the Sasha Fierce and not the Beyonce.
I guess. But now I've kind of moved more into filmmaking. That's more documentary stuff. So I guess that's more the person behind the performance. But yeah.
Amazing. Indonesia, that's such a cool place to. So did you go straight to Indonesia after Japan?
Yeah, pretty much. So
English language.
And then
Wow.
finished in Norwich. Language teaching is pretty much the lowest form of teaching.
Shots fired. Sorry,
if you're listening and you're a language teacher, like
sort your life out.
get a proper job. Because don't stay. You have to get out. Don't stay in it too long. Like I knew people in Asia who'd stayed with it too long.
Yeah,
and it's a pretty sad existence. Especially,
really hoping my sister-in-law's sister, who has been doing this forever and is not listening. Sorry, Lindsay, if you're listening to the pod, it's not how I feel, okay?
But Lindsay, sort your life out.
No, I'm sure there's some places where it's great. My experience, you're pretty much just the kind of the lowest of the low on the teaching hierarchy. I did have some very
below
funny
PE teachers.
Well, below any school teacher, because you do a course for a month. Like, how good do you need to be?
My PE teacher's really sorry. My brother-in-law is a PE teacher.
You're just coming for your whole family at this point. Just take down the teachers.
Just take them down one at a time.
What worse than RE teachers? Like we're going to find the scale.
Geography teachers, man, was a geography teacher worse than a geography teacher?
I've got quite a good, because it's Halloween coming up. I've got a spooky story from my language teaching, if you want to hear it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Always.
So Indonesia, they love ghosts. They all believe in ghosts. They've all got a ghost story. Most people think they've seen a ghost. And when I first arrived at this school in central Java, it's quite a creepy town. And the head teacher was this English woman in her 50s, pretty late 50s. I'd only been there like 2 months. And then I came in to work and she was in her office and she wasn't coming out. And people were like, what's going on? And then she'd gone. Like she left Indonesia. And like the next week, we kind of found out what had happened. But basically she lived in this house on the top of this hill, next to this cliff. And she'd gone back. She lived by herself and she used to go to the pub every night. So
it's key to the
you
story.
can make what you want from
Okay.
this. She'd go to the pub. She went back home and she's in bed and she felt something get into bed behind her. And she turned, and as she turned, she's like face to face with this Indonesian ghost that most people know it's a type of ghost. So it's not a dead person ghost. It's like a type of evil spirit called a gundruwo. And the gundruwo is like it's a bit like Chewbacca, I guess. He's like hairy with red eyes and long fingers. And we're not sure if it assaulted her or whether she just escaped. Anyway, so she left the country.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't believe this happened.
I was about to say, please don't tell me.
I am 100% believing this happens.
the gun through it, and apparently likes women, and it stays in like basements. So be careful if you're a woman in a basement in Indonesia. But what it turned out is that the people who'd lived in that house before, the woman who lived in that house said she'd also seen it. So
just more proof as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
there's no way that just planted that idea in her mind and made her maybe think that it must be true.
But the woman did want to get out of her contract and was an alcoholic.
Oh.
So,
That doesn't mean she didn't see a Gondrua.
you can weigh
Gondrua.
you can weigh it up.
It did sound quite scary until you said it's kind of like a Chewbacca.
Chewbacca would be terrifying if you
That would be.
if you were
Imagine
in bed and
Chewbacca
you
in
turn
bed
around
with
and
weird long
a
fingers
demon Chewbacca. So that was
and an
her.
erection.
Oh no!
She's 6 pints deep, comes home to a horny demon Chewbacca, and she's like, I'm out. So that was it. She quit the job and left the country.
Yeah, well, she managed to get out of her contract.
And they, because of they were like, oh my God, absolutely. Like,
so because they're so ready to believe,
Yeah.
like the owners of the school were like, whoa, I'll definitely go.
Go, yeah.
Wow.
Don't want to
Otherwise,
be...
she would have had to pay her flight money back. So it was a great way to escape her contract.
oh my God.
Did you see any ghosts while you were
Yeah.
there?
No, but I got into a real ghosty frame of mind, and I ended up living in this house for myself. And I'd go back, and the house is all dark, and I would think, as soon as I open the door, there's going to be a ghost there. And I would open the door, and there'd be no ghost. I was like, okay, I'm going to walk into lunch. There's going to be a ghost. No ghost. And I'd be lying in bed, like, as soon as I close my eyes, if I open them again, there's going to be a ghost, like, right here in my face. I got into that frame of mind for, like, weeks.
That's terrifying.
Like, I
Do you know who it
really...
is as well? He's against the gingers. They've gone... What's it called?
Demon Chewbacca.
The demon Chewbacca. He didn't fancy her.
No.
But then you could just use that as an excuse, phoning up, being like, oh, I'm late for work, sorry, the Gundru has slashed my tyre, sorry. They'd be like, no problem,
He's
Rod, take
holding
the
my
rest of the day off.
Oh my goodness.
So when you were there, you genuinely believed that you might like see one just because everybody was so into that spiritual...
Yeah, I got told so many stories.
Well, you would get swept up
And then
into
whenever
it.
I started talking about it, they started talking about it, and then they would tell me more stories. So I was like, oh, maybe the ghosts are here, where we
This is
live
where they are.
in this town. They're all here.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
but it's mostly bollocks. I met a sorcerer, Indonesian sorcerer, and we
Was
travelled
he in a
6
cape?
hours to beat him, and he was a complete charlatan, which was a real letdown because I was filming, I tried to film the stuff he was trying to show us to convince us of his powers.
Yeah.
And I've still got it. I've got my computer, and he was like, he did a Hadouken. He wanted to demonstrate he could fire energy, and he kind of got his student who was studying under him to sit on this chair. He did these elaborate movements, and they did a kind of Hadouken from Street Fighter 2, and the student kind of flew off the chair, but sideways, not backwards. So,
I'm committing, but I don't want a head injury.
We did a slow clap.
Slow clap of the sorcerer.
It's like, yep, this is proof. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a great place. I recommend
mystical.
Indonesia. I had a brilliant time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Sounds very mystical and magical. We'll go meet.
And I think it brings us on to the main question, the main reason why we have brought you here. What brings you joy? What sort of things make you happy?
So I was thinking about this, and I think there's a difference between joy and I think happiness. And I know you've talked about this a lot. And I love photography. I love filmmaking. I do capoeira, Brazilian capoeira, which I love. But I did that thing where I monetized my hobbies, which I think you've talked about before.
Yeah.
So I do them. They make me happy, but they always come with an element of stress. So I kind of feel like joy is something where you feel happiness, but without the stress. You just feel kind of happy, and there's no hint of ooh, that. And I thought about when I felt that. So I came up with communal nudity.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
This is a new one
Right.
for the
But not like orgies.
Yeah, okay.
Not
Just to
seedy
clarify.
nudity. The kind of nudity that Germans embrace or Scandinavians, where they kind of all sit around, they're naked, there's no shenanigans. It's, there's a lot of
It's
honesty.
not sexually charged.
Right.
It's just
Everyone's just
nude.
comfortable.
Have you been in a communal nude scenario?
I can't say I have. I tell you what, that might really get the YouTube views up.
Let's do it now.
No.
I've done. I went to Iceland, and I did the pool thing, and there was a little bit of nakedness involved in that. But it was a little bit awkward. There was less nakedness involved in it because the people that I was with, because it was I was there with other comedians. We were there doing a festival called Scotch on Ice. So
not crotch on ice.
Yeah. Liam Withnail and I did have a discussion that we're very good friends, and I really didn't want to see his willy. I think it would have ruined our friendship, and and he's very good friends with my husband as well. And I was just like, I think it might be weird. So we went into there was like a separate bit for like gendered. And there's a little bit of like with other women, and I kind of sat, but then I think you kind of did that with other women anyway. But no, I'm trying to think if I've ever done, other than when I was like a teenager and you would go skinny dipping.
So that's the same thing. Like how joyful was that? Like the
but
liberation.
That was a lot about trying to see willies.
It's just getting a peek. I know, I think probably
shriveled
Scottish willies. Oh my God, these 17-year-old shriveled Scottish willies. I was 17 as well. It was all above board.
And like skinny dipping in Scotland, very different experience to skinny dipping in like Australia.
Yeah.
It's like,
although I did go skinny dipping in Boston as well, at Martha's Vineyard actually.
sounded quite fancy.
It did make me sound quite fancy. I wasn't staying on Martha's Vineyard. Right. I was getting the boat across with the posh kids that were like from the OC. Like they were proper posh kids, which I didn't quite get, not being a posh kid myself. I just met a bunch of kids on the beach, and then like they would come and pick me up, and they all had like soft top sports cars and stuff, and I was like, this is amazing. But yeah, I was skinny dipped with them as well, and again, it was like, wow, try to see the Jaws. That's what we were trying to do. We were trying to see, because they filmed Jaws on Martha's Vineyard. And I don't know if you've ever watched, if you're ever looking for a film to watch, if you're a Jaws fan, there's what's it called? Sharks Working or Sharks Ready or something. It's a documentary about the filming of Jaws. You can get it on YouTube. And the shark never worked, right? That's why the documentary is called Sharks Working or something, because it never worked. And then when they finished filming, they were just like done with the shark. They were like, no, we're not even taking it away. So they've left it, and it is underneath a kind of bridge, and there's water now. Obviously it's a bit stick out, but that's where we're trying to like get our pictures with the Jaws, which is just a big rusted. It's 40 years. Do you know what I mean? It's like a huge big rust bucket.
Well, when
or it was 20 odd years.
I haven't been skinny. I went skinny dipping in Australia in Byron Bay, and we were drunk, and it was a night. I'm like, Wah! And then 3 days later, in that exact same area, there was a shark attack. So we're like, oh dear. So both shark related, naked stories. So, but no, I don't think I've ever been communally naked. So is this something you do? Sort of have like practice?
It's not. I haven't done it for
on the
years.
to-do list.
I think it's very cultural, isn't it? Nudity, and we just don't really have it in our culture.
Uptight.
It's very It's a kind of. It's just what you're used to. Like my little brother, he lives in Germany, and he refuses to go to like the hot springs, because you have to be nude, and he won't go. I'm like, just go, man. Like no one cares, but he won't go. It's so entrenched in him. But I discovered the naked tent at Glastonbury one year.
That sounds absolutely horrendous.
You just know it's full of the people you don't want to see naked.
People that are getting any aren't in the naked tent at Glastonbury.
It was. I think it was my first Glastonbury. Actually, I was 19, and it was. I think it was Glastonbury 97. So listeners can work out my age. And we got properly covered in mud. It was the awful, really muddy one of those years, and we'd been just diving in the mud. We were covered in mud, me and my friend Andy, and we found these showers, and it was at the bottom of the family field. We were showering, and the temperature was really dropping, and this guy was like, "Oh, like next door, there's like jet heaters in it's a big tent. There's jet heaters, and there's other showers, like better showers." And we were like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, yeah, you have to go through there. And it's like Alice in Wonderland, like a little tunnel.
Oh.
I think you wouldn't want to get naked before you went through the tunnel.
Okay.
But we didn't know it was the naked tent. So we went through the tunnel, and we just emerged in what only can be described as a kind of Renaissance painting of hippies, naked hippies.
That's amazing.
And like playing didgeridoos, like lounging on ethnic
course,
throws.
the most phallic of instruments. You know, if you're going to be playing something in a naked tent, make sure it's a didgeridoo.
Yep.
So,
I bet
yeah.
it was a man playing that as well. Oh, I need this to cover my... Yeah, all right. You could have had a flute.
So we had two choices, whether to crawl back out where we came or just strip off and embrace the naked tent, which we did. And we ended up staying there all night.
really got on board with this fast.
Well, it was, Glastonbury was like Mordor, you know, it got to that point. It was so bad and it was freezing cold and muddy. And we were in this beautiful warm tent and they had like a hot tub. So we just got in the hot tub, like people were handing us drinks. We were like, this is looking up at the stars. We found the spot. I don't know if it still exists, but if you're at Glastonbury, track it down.
That's amazing. Look,
How high were you?
How many different drugs did you consume?
People, the owners of Glastonbury events going, we've never had any. Rod is just really, really high.
Yeah.
There's two naked guys sitting in a massive puddle.
And that's why Rod's now banned from Glastonbury.
Just people walking past and they're like, oh.
Yeah, this hot tub's amazing. Yeah, you're in a puddle, sir.
Love it.
Wow.
So because sometimes you watch those, like, I don't know if you've ever, I'm a big fan of the old Stacey Dooley.
Yeah.
Do you know Stacey? Are you aware of Stacey's work? I feel like I could have been Stacey had I just come in a bit
You think, yeah.
a bit earlier, because I'm a nosy ginger as well. Do you know? I mean, I could have just. I love that she's like, oh, I'm just going to watch these people have sex, and I'm just going to go to this house with they all live naked, and you know, and just so. Like that, when she goes in and she's done interviews. I watched a thing where she went to, like, it was like I think it was in America, but like a camp where it's just a nudist camp, like, and it's just that's what they do, and they all work there, and it's much easier now to be a nudist because of the remote, like, working.
Oh, true.
You can work remotely in the nude. It's fine, isn't it? You don't need to. You can still have your ethics of nudity, but earn money.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But it's much harder.
Just put a top on. If it's a Zoom call, just put on the top.
Just put a little, or just do it from just have your it from the neck up. But it was whenever I see nudist camp type things, I don't know. It's obviously just a thing for the entertainment factor. But there's always, you know, some guy like with a chainsaw up a tree, and you're going. I still think health and safety should come into consideration. Yeah. Or they're like hoeing something. You know,
it feels a bit showy off, doesn't it? Look at me naked with my chainsaw. It's like, still get sun protective on there, because
you've got a hard hat on. You also need a.
Because if you chop it off, I've no sympathy for you. Oh my god. Wow, she is great. She just goes and just like
she just gets involved
random places. I think this was not a children's camp.
No,
this was an adult camp.
No, there was kids there though. It was like a commune, I guess, or just like it was just all people who live in some area, and yeah, I mean there were kids there, but it was like all above, it was very.
But if you see a lot of nakedness, you do immediately think cult.
You do.
A little bit has that connotation.
The thing is about being naked with a whole group of people, your mindset changes very quickly. And unless there is someone there making it weird, I don't know, with their camera phone or something, then you quickly forget. It's amazing how quickly you forget that everyone's naked. I think it's quite a good leveler, because everyone looks quite funny naked. Like even people with a great physique, so it still looks quite funny. Like, so. There's that thing, isn't it? If you go for an interview, it's like, oh, try and picture them naked if you're nervous. Which I think is terrible advice.
Yeah.
Like, especially if they're attractive.
Why didn't you get the job? Well, I was very turned on. Yes.
I couldn't get for 20 minutes.
At the end of the interview.
I just walked about my hands in my pockets. But, because it's our culture, isn't it? So we're so uptight. Like the Western world to a high degree, but particularly the UK is so uptight. And I remember when you were like a kid, and I was a kid in the 80s and the 90s, and there would be like the National Geographics, like that would be, because we didn't have the internet. Because I'm old, you're not, you're lovely young millennial.
I'm also old.
And you would, you'd be like in RE We were chatting about RE earlier. That's where you would see these, or like geography or something in National Geographic, and you would see, you know, cultures, and all the boys would be having a laugh because like the women had their breasts out and things like that, and you're kind of going, yeah, but that's it's us that are
totally
in the wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's us that make it all weird. Whereas like if your culture is to be at peace with your body and not to be, you know, worrying about chopping your willy off while cutting a tree down. Yeah, health and safety gone mad. Like it is, I think culturally it is. I understand where your brother's coming from, because culturally it's a huge mental shift for the UK.
Yeah, it's like in Spain you've got topless beaches and everyone's cool with that. But like Brazil, the women, they will wear like micro bikinis, you know, the kind of dental floss thong, and they'll tiny little triangular things over their nipples, you know, with string. But if a girl walked down the beach topless, they would be shocked.
Oh, really?
Really? So it's just as long as the nipple, they've got a little bit, that's fine. But it's just, which is so crazy, because that's exactly the same. Like sort of not as much here, but yeah, it's something to do. They just women's nipples.
I don't know what it is about the nipple.
They just
poor Janet Jackson.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
and her career ruined because of that one little nipple that popped out.
It's a very strange, because men's. I actually had this conversation with my little boy, and he calls his nipples nibbles.
Adorable.
Because he talks about his nibbles. He's like, and I had my nibbles out. And then he got into a conversation in the summertime about why Daddy had his nibbles out sunbathing, but Mama doesn't have her nibbles out. And I was like, well, ladies don't really get their nipples. And it is, and then you're kind of, as you're trying to explain it, you're kind of going, oh, this is so patriarchal bullshit nonsense.
It is.
But this is just the way that the world is.
I don't know if it's like the hypersexualizing of it, or it's just something. Because, I mean, if you had a picture zoomed up of a man nipple and a lady nipple, you'd probably be able to tell the difference if it was zoomed in. I don't think so. I don't know why. Yeah. Free the nipple.
From my experience of zooming in on nipples.
What a segue, Rod. What a segue.
But yeah, it's just what we decide should be covered up. Like nuns aren't allowed to show their ears because monks found the ear because it's like a flappy orifice.
God's sake.
Are you about to tell me that the monks were so torn down by ears that they had to cover?
That's why nuns have to cover. That's why they have habits.
And then the nuns, you know, and then if a monk would see a nun's ear, because they're always covered up, then he would and have to beat himself with the Bible or something like that. I didn't know
monks were such dirty bastards.
Of course they are.
This is it. It's just if you can't hold it all in.
It's the patriarchy at work again. So other than nakedness, is there anything else that brings you joy?
Well, I did, as I mentioned, so I've done capoeira for 25 years. Wow. I'm actually one of the highest ranked British people in capoeira. It's not that there aren't that many people. And it's just because I've done it for ages. But it's been a big source of anxiety for me in a lot of ways. And I think it's only recently, actually, I stepped away from it for a few years, and then coming back to it, I've managed to experience it with a lot more joy. And I think it's one of those things, when I started, it was just, this is brilliant. It was kind of all joy. But then as I progressed, it kind of got heavier, and then more pressure was on me, and a lot of different things happened. I had my skull fractured with a capoeira kick, and the grandmaster of our group ended up being exposed in like a sex trafficking scandal.
Oh no!
And just there was just so many things, and they happened like one after another, and each time it was like another nail in the coffin. And then I hurt my ankle, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this.
Because it's a really intense sport, because we were briefly talking about it before the record of capoeira, and I was like, oh, is that the sort of dance thing that you do? And Rod was like,
a lot of
everybody does this with their hands. So Rod, do you actually explain what it is to people that don't know, like myself, that think it's just this?
It's a game. You play capoeira. So
okay.
Capoeira is kind of it's a cultural art. some call it martial art. I don't really describe it as a martial art. It was developed in Brazil by enslaved African people in the context of slavery, and then developed through the 20th century across Brazil, and is then spread across the world, and is still developing really as an art form. But it's typified by a lot of kicks, a lot of acrobatics, cartwheels, handstands, that take place in a circle of people with music, so percussion, singing in Portuguese. I think people are confused by it because they think, well, what's the point? There's no winner and loser at the end of the thing. Mm-hmm. And in that way, capoeira is very joyous because it's about just doing it.
It's the journey of doing it.
Like we just enjoy doing it. We enjoy playing, and at the end, we don't like, you're the winner. We are trying to catch each other. There is a competitive element, and it can get very rough, especially in Brazil. I think capoeira outside of Brazil is seen as a bit hippie kind of thing, but in Brazil, it's very much viewed as something that is quite dangerous. So we try and keep capoeira as safe as possible. I did get kicked very hard, and that's been the worst injury I've had in 25 years. Most people don't get that, but it's a great community as well. It's one of the few things I do that has quite a big community. So I was down in Manchester last weekend. It's just like 100 people, really great people, friends from over the years, who are really happy to see me, really happy to see them. Something we can do together. It's physical, it's healthy. I used to teach it a lot to kids. Like, it's really good for kids, it's physical development, motor skills. And now my students teach in schools and teach adults as well. So it is a really brilliant activity. And I'm glad I'm coming back to it now.
Yeah.
But I hadn't spoken Portuguese for quite a few years, and I was suddenly back with all these Brazilians, and they're all laughing and joking in Portuguese, and I'm like just trying to understand and trying to make my contribution, but it's so difficult to try and be funny in yourself in a different language.
Yeah, you get yourself back to the centre to learn how the language. Was it TEFL? Was that what it's called?
Definitely. Yeah. No, I do. I need it.
That's so cool. Yeah, I didn't really know a lot about capybara, but that's so interesting that it's not really clearly.
Capybara is a big rodent.
Oh no! What did I say? You said capybara. That's that big.
That's that big thing that's in the zoo. Not a capybara.
No, capoeira.
Capoeira. Oh my god! There we go. It's so cool.
My mum was born in Brazil. She was born in Recife.
Oh wow.
And so I have a little bit of a connection, but I've never been. And I would really love to go, but
you have to get your micro bikini out.
I have to get. Oh god! I mean, did they have them for danglers? Like, maybe you get a bit older, do you know? You need something to hold them up. I don't think it's got the weight bearing thing that I would need to keep them above the waistline. But I remember I used to run a youth work. I worked in youth work for years, and I remember I had some capoeira guys come to teach the children of Halden in West Dunbartonshire capoeira for a week over the summer holidays, and they absolutely loved it. Like, it was such the boys, I was trying to find things that boys would do that wasn't football. We're finding it really hard to engage with the young men in the area, and so we came up with this as one of the things, and they really loved it, and it was so nice, and it was such like a positive male role models happening as well, because these guys came, maybe you were one of them, I have no idea. This is like 17 or 18 years ago, and they came to Halden and they did this whole thing for a week, and then at the end the kids were able to invite their families, and they did like a little kind of showing. And it was really good fun, and other kids were getting involved with drumming and stuff like that with it, and it was really joyful. So that's the only time I've actually tried it, because I was obviously doing it along with them, and that's awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was good fun.
Yeah, the capoeira, you get a nickname often. So when I started capoeira, I had dreads. I know I was that guy. doing backflips on the beach in Bali with dreads. Like,
Talking
what
about
a
communal
prick.
nudity. Get with your didgeridoo.
So my capoeira name was Medusa, which means jellyfish, or it's like, Medusa. Just something about Portuguese is, Jay, do you speak any Portuguese?
No, I absolutely don't.
So,
I barely speak English, let's be honest. I'm from Greenock.
So yes in Portuguese is sim, and no is no. And it's a specific sound, oh, no. And it's spelled N-A-O. So you generally get your nickname often from what you look like. And I knew this guy, and he had a beard, big beard, and he used to wear this like little cap. And his capoeira teacher gave him the nickname gnome, like in the garden, a garden gnome, which in Portuguese is anão. And then he went to Brazil, and he went to train in the capoeira academy. He arrived there. He didn't speak much Portuguese. He's like, my name is, like, meu nome é, like, my name is, meu nome é anão. Because a lot of British people, when they see the word, if A-N-A-O, they think ow. So it's like anão. So he arrived there, and then they were all laughing, like hysterical laughing. And they're like, what's your name? And he's like, oh, meu nome é anão. Ah, and he's like, oh, they must think that's really funny that I look like a gnome. He was there for like a month. And then his friend arrived, and he was like, what did you tell them your name was? And he was like my capoeira gnome. And he's like, no, that's not what they think it is. Basically, anão is Portuguese for anal.
Oh my God.
All these guys, my name's Anal.
I just wonder why I get nicknamed that.
And for a month, no one told him.
No,
It was just...
they just accepted it.
That was great. And was that his name then from then on?
Yeah.
Anal.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
So many jokes about girls I went to school with. But I'm not going to say them.
That's brilliant.
Okay, I think that brings us on nicely to our next section, which is Jay's Joy Killers. So this is the section of the show where we ask you, what kills your joy? What are the things? It can be like a big thing, it can be a serious thing, it can be a frivolous thing. But what is it? What is the one thing guaranteed to kill your joy, or what's been annoying you lately?
LinkedIn.
No.
I don't want to talk about LinkedIn. I would say physical injury, because I was feeling really good at the weekend. I was like moving really well, felt really good in my body, felt strong, felt flexible. And then I got back like, I'm going to really get back into capoeira. Went to see Dan Scott on Wednesday because he wanted to learn a bit of capoeira for his floor work, his flare work for a pole. And as soon as I moved, I pulled a muscle in my back. And I was like, Dan, I can't do it anymore. And I really struggle to stay positive when I have something like that. And I think that's quite a common thing. Like if you have something, if you have a physical ailment, it's very difficult to maintain joy because you're kind of constantly reminded wherever you kind of move. And so at the moment I've pulled a muscle in my back and it just makes me just really grumpy.
I think, and don't want to, but we're kind of similar in ages, but I think like the older
32.
Yeah, we're both 32. Looking great.
Well, if you're 32, I'm 23.
Yeah.
There we go.
Woo, woo. I think it's like the older that you get, it's random things. It's not like, when you were younger and you would run at, you might run a distance and then you'd hurt yourself and you'd be like, oh, well, I pulled my... Now it's like getting up.
Yeah.
That's it. Getting up and from one position to another and you're out the game for 3 weeks. And that's the depressing thing.
I got cramp in my neck the other day just from reaching under the sofa for the remote. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, God, you're 30 when Jesus.
So I find that, and I see it happening a lot, is I don't know when it started to happen, but I hold a lot of tension here. So even because we get recorded all the time as comics, which I hate personally.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys, for watching. I see it all the time when I look at videos back. Where I'm like, this, like I can see, and sometimes I'll feel myself and I'll go, oh, and as soon as I do that, I can feel pain. So it's obviously that I'm doing, and I'm like, why? Why am I in pain?
I've got a tip for that.
Yes.
For proper posture. Pretend you're one of the fembots from Austin Powers and that you can shoot with your nipples.
Your nipples.
I heard that on TikTok not long ago. Yeah, laser at the nipples apparently. So it's just like this, is it?
Yeah, and then if you...
I actually dressed as a fembot one year for Halloween. I did. I got I was about to say a feather duster, not feather duster, a feather boa, and taped it, sewed it around a nightie. This is back in the day when I could get away with that, wearing a nightie out. And I got toilet roll holders and glued them to my boobs and put, there must be pictures of it somewhere, but I went as a fit and I had the big like beehive hairdo.
That's great.
I went as a fembot, and I think somebody was Austin Powers, and we just kind of walked by. Like, I think I was about 18 or something when I did that.
That's great.
So yeah, just go back to my teens. Get my fembot costume. Look it out. It's probably at my mum's loft.
Well, listen, Halloween's coming up, so this year.
I'm already having this issue because obviously when the listeners listen to this, Halloween will have been past, but I'm having one of these situations at the moment that I'm having to, and because now I have a child, so tomorrow we've got the Halloween school disco and I'm doing face painting at it, and they sent a thing and I should have thought about it, but they're like, oh, it'd be quite good if the parents dressed up. And I was like, I have no appropriate dressing up for children's parties. Like, my favourite ever costume is when I went as a giant vagina. It was a big hairy costume. It was a proper vagina costume I got from a friend who teaches
not one
about,
of these knockoffs.
Not a knockoff vagina.
A real hairy vagina costume.
A big hairy vagina from my friend who works in public health to do with women's not peeing themselves, basically. A physiotherapist, gynecological physiotherapist. And she's got this big giant muff, and I borrowed it off of her. But it had to be scary because it was like a scary Halloween costume. I feel like if it's Halloween, you have to be scary. So I got the It mask and I went as Clitoris.
Brilliant.
Which I thought was great, but you can't wear that to the kids' party.
Nope.
I'm wondering what the reaction would be if you walked down a nudist beach dressed as a giant vagina.
Well, they'd have to accept you, surely.
You're kind of
Or
dressed,
maybe
but you're revealing a lot more than anyone else.
Little clitoris.
So what are you going to go as? Not sure.
I don't know. Probably just be a witch or something.
Yes,
because
I
it's
need
tomorrow.
to.
So,
right, yeah.
or I am doing the face painting, so I might just do, I don't know. But it's P1 as well, so I can't be too scary or whatever.
No.
So might do. I'll probably just do a unicorn or
something
fun. Go as a fairy. Like I've got fairy type clothes, so I'll probably do something like that.
I know, all my past Halloween costumes are just, and I look at what I wore at uni and I'm like, you went out in your underwear.
Oh, I absolutely went out in my underwear.
In Glasgow, where it's freezing cold. I remember I went out for 1 year in Halloween and it was snowing. And I was like, I'm not bringing a jacket because I'm not paying £1 for cloakroom.
No.
I went out and it was I nearly got hypothermia.
We did a thing 1 year. So my best friend, Victoria, she loved Halloween. Her birthday was on the 31st of October. And we would always go out on her birthday dressed up. And when she would choose the theme. And 1 year she chose Dead Famous. And we were all to go as dead people, right? And I had started doing comedy by this point. It was my early 20s. And so Mark Nelson came out with this. He came out as JFK, and his then girlfriend, now wife, was Jackie Onassis. Our other friend Andy Vaughan, and this was literally I think the crocodile hunter guy had died in the September, and this was October. He went out as Steve Irwin and had a big stingray coming out of his heart.
God.
It's very poor taste. And I went out as, again, she had not long passed, I went out as Anna Nicole Smith in my underwear with a big set of plastic fake boobs and a baby that said, "Who's the daddy?" on the back of it.
Oh my God.
The things you could do in the early noughties, you know, you could never get away with that now. Like, I'm also, apologies for anybody offended by that costume, but it was of its time, right? It was of its time, but that was us, Dead Famous. She went out as Marilyn Monroe, but the whole thing was that Victoria was waiting. She had cystic fibrosis, and she was waiting for a lung transplant. And she wasn't supposed to drink or anything like that in case the transplant call came in. And she decided, like, fuck it, right? She'd had like 4 or 5 missed calls at that point. And we went out, we got really drunk. We ended up in the Polo Lounge in Glasgow. And we were just having a great time. But 3 o'clock in the morning, came home, got a kebab, had just got into the house with the kebab and everything. And she had a special mobile. Like, so it wasn't, they didn't call her mobile, she had a special mobile that she had, and it goes off, and she got a call, and the transplant centre was in Newcastle, and they said the ambulance was 10 minutes out. So, long story short, I had to go and move my car because I was going down with her, and I took an ambulance drive, not thinking, because I was in my early 20s, dressed as Anna Nicole Smith, had taken the fake boobs out, but was in my underwear with just a coat over the top of me, never brought anything else, blue lighted down for her to get this lung transplant, which she never ended up getting on that occasion. She did get one in the end, and it gave her an extra 5 years. But it didn't happen, and then we both had to figure out how we were getting home from Newcastle back to Glasgow the next morning, the next afternoon, when all had been said and done. Her dressed as a Marilyn Monroe, and me dressed in my underwear.
And you had nothing else with you. You just got
that was it.
I think if you'd stood on the road with your thumb out, I think
somebody would have stopped.
Would have picked you up. Maybe not the right kind of person, but.
Oh my God. That is just. And how did you get back up? Just had to get the train?
No, we ended up getting somebody to come down and get us.
I feel like we can't sit in the train.
Yeah, because we had no money either. We were skint, and we just drank it all as well. But it was in the back of the ambulance, and the woman's going, "You've had nothing to drink," and she's going, "No, nothing to drink, nothing at all." And I'm like, "She's not had anything to drink. We did all the drinking." She's like. We are going to move on to our we've got a new section of the pod. This is the first time that we're doing it. And so it's called
It's called Hannah's Headlines. So basically every week I'm going to bring a story or something that I've seen in the news or that's in the media that has brought me joy and that I want to talk about. So this week it's a story. Look, hang on, I've even printed this out because I am a professional. This week is a story about a woman that got stuck upside down between 2 boulders when she tried to receive her phone, get her phone back.
Shall I show?
Yeah, show the picture. So this was a brilliant story that came out of Australia. So what happened was this woman was hiking and she dropped her phone down the boulders, in between 2 boulders, and she must have been a Gen Z because she's like, I need to get my phone back. Went in head first and got fully stuck between 2 boulders, and she was stuck for 7 hours.
Oh my God.
And they had to get all the emergency crew in. Now, she was freed and she came away with only very minor scratches, so she's absolutely fine. Unfortunately, she did not get the phone back, which she was apparently very upset about. But yeah, I just saw this story and I was like, that is, talk about just get a new phone, babe.
How did she think that... did she take her own shoes off? Because in this photo, for the listeners who aren't watching us on YouTube, she is barefoot. All we can see in this photo is like a tiny, I don't know how long, again, I'm not good with distance, what's that, 6 centimetres?
Yeah, I would say what, maybe...
No, inches?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe...
A man would probably think it was longer.
6 inches, yeah. 12 inches. I would say it's maybe what, 10?
It's not as wide as her foot.
No, so it's maybe 6-7 inches. It is a tiny gap, and yeah, I love the logic of like, I'm not going to be crazy. I'll take my shoes off, but then I'll go in head first.
Do you think if she's trapped, upside down, do you think she could reach her phone? So at least, I know.
Play like, while she's down
play
there.
like Angry Birds.
Get a little bit on TikTok. Well, yeah, and sadly she never got the phone back. But yeah, she was with 2 friends who
thank God
eventually managed to call they had no service either, so they eventually managed to call 911 or whatever it is in Australia after like an hour, and then they got there and they did free her eventually. But it was like, what was it? It was a 500k boulder. They had kg boulder. They had to move.
Did they have to move
the boulder? They had to move it to get her out because she was so tightly jammed in there. I mean, at what point?
What an idiot.
Head and shoulders in that tight of space. Are you not thinking, I should probably stop? I should probably...
No, she went straight to knees and toes.
There we go.
Hey. great.
So yeah,
I've never. You see people doing that all the time with phone things, though. Like you see people dropping their phones and running out into the middle of the road, or I've seen the ones like in theme parks and stuff like that. My God.
But that's dangerous because, there's been people that have been trapped like that do die. Like that, if you're stuck upside down, obviously she was fine. But yeah, that was
There's that horrible thing, I think, isn't a documentary on Netflix. It's about people who do the crawling through caves.
the cave in.
And they get stuck. It's a bit where you've got to like breathe in, breathe out, and they just got stuck and they knew they weren't getting out. And but they took them like 10 hours to die. And there was nothing anybody could do. There was nothing they could do. I was just like, why do that?
That is just, caving is one of the most horrendous things. It's just like go between these tiny caves, and if they kick up the dust and they can't see anything, so that's them stuck there forever. Oh, no thank you.
It's a really embarrassing way to die as well.
Yeah.
It's like right up there with asphyxie wanking or like,
very big in the early noughties, that the old asphyxie wanking, and it was a Hutch, the big Hutchie. He went out like that. Quite a few people went out like that in there.
Wow.
With the old necktie. Nice. Wonder what he was doing. Well. And now they have rimming. So
that's the Gen Zs are all about their rimming.
Probably.
That's some intense rimming. If you die from rimming, cause of death from rimming.
I can never do anything in a cave.
He died how he lived.
Rimming his way through.
I literally couldn't do anything cave based because of the descent. So Shauna McDonald, who is friend of the pod, Shauna's been on the pod, but before I knew Shauna and I are the same age, only like a month or so between us. So when she was in her late teens, early 20s, she was the star of this film called, have you seen The Descent?
No.
So it was like one of these underground horror films that then became massive one summer, and is now 20 years later still one of the most played horror films. And it's about a group of women, and I think that was why, because it was quite unusual for a horror film to be, have kind of no male protagonists at all. It was just this group of women. And they get together once a year. They're like uni friends, and they go caving. And they get down into this cave, and this monster starts to follow them. And Shauna played the lead part in it. And it was one of the most terrifying horror movies that I've still ever seen. I love it. I've watched it many times. And it's even more weird now because I know Shauna. And I'm like, run, Shauna! Oh, Jesus God! And it's a brilliant film. Wow. But it has ruined any caving. We went to Portugal on holiday in the Algarve, and we took my wee boy down to the beach, and of course it's beautiful and there's all these little caves, and I'm going, don't go too far, don't go in, don't go in.
It's just why would you want to? You can't see shit down there. It's dark. Like, why would you ever go caving, Rod?
I have been caving in I'm from the West Country, so I'm from Bristol, and there's quite a lot of caving in Somerset area. And I used to do these activity holidays, and they used to take us caving, and I think I really enjoyed it. But then there was a moment where I got really scared when we were we were quite deep, and it was very, very narrow, and it was a bit like the tunnel that led into the naked tent at Glastonbury. And you're just crawling, and all that's in front of you is someone's feet, and there's people behind you, and there's that feeling that there's no way out for me here. I just have to see this through because there's no way back and there's no way forward. I just got to keep going. That I got really scared, and I haven't been since.
No, and how old were you when you did that?
I think I was probably about 13.
That's young.
Yeah.
I think that's actually where it's set, somewhere in Bristol or somewhere. The film that I'm talking about, I think it was filmed there.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of caves around there.
Wow.
There's Cheddar Gorge. Do you know Cheddar Gorge? Cheddar Gorge is great. I think it's where cheddar cheese is from.
It would make sense. Yeah.
But there's a place called Wookie Hole, and Wookie Hole is a massive.
Back to the tent of Glastonbury.
It's a massive system of caves, but it's it's the caverns, big caverns, but then it also gets really like deep and very scary as well. But you don't go down there as a tourist. But there's a legend there's the witch of Wookie Hole, who was apparently based on a true story. There was a witch that lived in that cave, and people would disappear and stuff. And then I think the locals went in and killed her.
Of course.
Yeah.
but you go in and there's a stalagmite that looks like a bit like the witch, and they're like, oh, you know, she turned to stone, and there's her cat.
She could probably just like read.
Also, I just have to, because it's in my head and I have to say it, but a Wookiee hole is Chewbacca's favourite type of porn.
Maybe this is where the Indonesian demon Chewbacca comes from as well. Wookiee hole.
Wookiehole.com.
Wookiee hole. What a great name.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for
Rod.
coming on the
very
pod.
much.
Do you, if our listeners want to find out more about your work, do you want to tell them where they can find you?
Probably just on Instagram. So Rod_Penn, Penn. So yeah, I'm a photographer, filmmaker, and capoeira teacher.
And you've got a website which has got your film on it.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that,
Penn.photography.
Yeah.
So
good.
get in touch.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being on my first episode.
Yeah,
Rod.
congratulations.
First ever pod.
On your first
one.
Yay, first ever guest pod.
First ever guest
Do you
pod.
have anything that you want to plug at the moment?
Not really. Just follow me on Instagram. It's Hannah Campbell.
Campbell.
UJ.
I'm only plugging because now the tour has finally finished. The listeners will be like, thank God. But however, I am now plugging the new show. Which is a Glasgow Comedy Festival. It's called Ooft, and it's on the 22nd at the Stand Comedy Club. And there's lots of work in progresses, but yeah, follow me on Insta at JJ Laughs. Thank you again for coming on the pod.
Thanks,
Rod.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.